Hi guys, I am coming to you to just give you an update of how my bug out from this weekend went. Nothing went according to plan. On Thursday, it was my intention to head to my original bug out location. I am a part of a bug out group, and we do mandatory bug outs every month. And on my way there, it was going to be a 6 hour drive. I don't like driving in the dark to begin with, and anybody that is in the Atlanta area knows that the traffic here can be insane, would be an understatement. Anyway, on my way out of Georgia, I hit a tire that flew off of a semi. And I didn't know what kind of damage was done to my car. All I know is that my car was very sludgy. So I had to pull over on the side of the road. There were no tow trucks that were coming. No tow truck was available this night. So I am new in this area. I came here because I do have a little bit of family here. The family that lives by me was tied up. So I had to call my person, like, hey person, I just got into a car accident. And so just having him I was panicking, but I had already kind of assessed the situation, but just having him to kind of, all right, you need to pull yourself together. Now's not the time to be panicking. I was just my kids were, I'm on the side of a highway in the Atlanta area. That's scary and traumatizing at the same time. So anyhow, I ended up, the cops came to help me, and they were able to get the undercarriage. That was the only damage that I had to my car. Some bumper damage, but mostly my entire front undercarriage was ripped off. It's all exposed. But I was able to drive home. I didn't want to continue going, even though the cop was like, I think you should be fine. And after speaking to my cousin was like, nah, I would really hate for you to get all the way here, and then your car starts, failing, and you're out here and you can't get back home. I was like, you know what, you're right. So I went back home, and I waited for my person to kind of assess my car. And once he was like, you should be fine, I was like, well, I really don't want to spend the weekend in the house. I had the car all packed up and I was all ready to bug out. I had already been in the house for, a few weeks because I knew this weekend was going to be happening, and I wanted to give my kids a break from hiking. Every other week we like to go and explore different waterfalls. And hike. I want my kids to be conditioned to be able to maneuver and, trek their way through any kind of terrain, just in case of anything that ever happens, right? So, we ended up going to Anarubi Falls, not quite, but Chattahoochee National Forest, Unicoi. Please don't make fun of me if I'm pronouncing it wrong. Unicoi State Park in Chattahoochee National Forest is where we ended up bugging out. It was a primitive site, not like anything we went to in Tennessee before, where we had electricity, we had water. We didn't have that here. The only thing that we really did have was we had a bathroom. So even though I had a little portable potty, we didn't end up having to use that. But just speaking of that, so if you're bugging out and you're not, you don't want to quite do it the dig a hole and go for what you know way, we did have a porta potty, which they do sell. I sell them. You can get them from anywhere. They're eco sticks. And you put them in biodegradable bags. I know this sounds gross, but for the people that are not used to bugging out or either camping in a primitive, site, this might be helpful to someone. We didn't end up having to use that. I also had the sheeness. My daughter was like, I'm not peeing like a boy. Listen, if you got to use the bathroom, you're going to do what you have to do. My son thought it was pretty funny. But we didn't have to use either one of those. By the time we got to our site on Friday, it was dark. When we got there, the rangers let us know that the bear in the area were more active than usual. And then if we see them, that they're more scared of us, then, that's what they always say about everything. They're more afraid of you than you are of them. Listen, if a bear comes at me, anyway, that really kept me from we tried to get out there before it got dark, but ended up having to double back because my kids didn't pack everything that they needed, so we had to come back to the house and pack the stuff that they forgot to pack. So we got out there in the dark and we had to set up our tent in no lighting at all. So all we had was our flashlights. So it's a good thing that we do have flashlights. It's a good thing that we were able to find a site because this was a first come, first serve. So you literally have to drive around and find an empty site. We got lucky. There was an empty site right by a parking spot. So we didn't have to walk very far from the car to the site. My tent is a easy 60-second pop-up tent. It makes it heavy to carry. In a real, bug out situation, unless I have a utility wagon, is something like that going to be feasible? Where most people, they usually have their tents rolled up on their backpack. Mine is about 20 pounds, but it also sleeps more people. So we were able to get set up, but we were kind of leery of preparing any food that late, even though we have our heater. It's called a Chubby. It's a gas powered heater that you can also cook on, but I didn't want food smells going up into the air that late at night and having to worry about a bear pulling up on us while we're trying to sleep. So we just snacked until the morning time in the daylight, where we could at least see our surroundings, so that we can have a better reaction time if we did come across any wildlife like that. With our snacks out there, they do have bear boxes. So I would just say, if you are out in a national forest, especially in the South, black bears are very common. I wouldn't suggest leaving trash, like open trash, if you're out bugging out. Have a container that is airtight, so that smell, like, they have a very sharp sense of smell. So they can smell your deodorant, they can smell your bath soap. So I would just keep all that stuff zipped up and packed away, so that it's not out to where they would smell it. The rangers let us know that even though it's cold and they're usually like hibernating, this season, for whatever reason, they've been more active. That night before we did go to sleep, we did kind of hear off in the distance, somebody was like, "Bear, get inside." So I was like, oh, here we go with the shits. But I don't ever go anywhere where I'm not armed, so I did have my firearm with me, and I am licensed to carry before anybody says anything. I did have my firearm with me just in case anything happened. I'm sorry, there was not going to be any protecting the bears. There was going to be protecting me and my kids. But the night was cold and we made it to the morning. It had rained really bad, like Thursday. There was a severe thunderstorm in the area. So the wood that was out there, one of the mistakes, the first mistake that I made going out there, I did not bring my own wood. I relied on the fact that when I went to Tennessee, there was wood out there. So when I went camping in Tennessee before, I had bought bushels of wood, and some fellow bushcrafters was like, "You didn't have to do that. They got wood over the hill. You could have just used that." And I was like, yeah, this was a waste of money. So I'm going out there with this mentality that I'm going to be in a national forest and there's going to be wood out there. I had my axe. I had my saw. I was prepared to, chop my own wood for my own firewood. What I misjudged and it slipped from my mind, it rained. So anything that was out there is wet, right? So I ended up having to go to the lodge the next morning to get some wood. They did have some dry wood. So I got that and I was able to start a fire so that we can get breakfast going and hot chocolate and stuff like that, right? We did not pack like sandwiches and stuff. I wanted my kids to experience like the full bug out experience, like us having food and actually cooking it out there. So we got that fire going. And it didn't last for long. Like the wind out there, it was blowing like 15 miles an hour. So every time, we got like a good fire going, it would blow out. We didn't go hiking this time. I just more or less wanted this to be a bug out experience for me and the kids. So my son bought a football. We tossed the football around. There was a playground that was out there. So they went and played on the playground, and then after that, they just pitched in and helping me gather wood and chop up the wood for the night, the second night. And the second night, struggle fire. I had bought those little Duraflame fire starter blocks. They were a waste of money. I know that there is another prepper out there, and he's always posting up. It's Hudson Valley prepper. He's always posting these fire starters. So wherever he got those from, I'm going to have to click on the link in his post and get those same ones, because I'm telling you, those Duraflame fire starters, I mean, maybe they work for some people. They did not work for me. If you guys have any suggestions on fire starters, or if you have another brand of fire starters that you use, I know when I was in Tennessee, the guys that helped me start my fire, they had like something like in a tin can that they put at the bottom, and whatever, I don't know what it was called, and I should have asked, but I forgot. But again, if you guys have any suggestions for fire starters, please leave them in the comment box. Another mistake that I made, I have an air mattress for me and my kids. And the first time we went camping, it was okay, right? One of the things that we were in, what was it, Snowstorm Izzy at that time. So the mattress kept getting cold, right? So I put the tarp underneath my tent to keep the cold air from the gravel from coming up. That tarp underneath the tent wasn't enough. So by the second night, we ended up having to lay down I had bought another tarp just in case it had rained to cover like our fire pit so that we can at least have fire. But we ended up using that second tarp to lay down inside the tent and underneath the air mattress, because we were still absorbing a lot of coldness from the ground into the air mattress. And it was like 24 degrees at night. And for us, I'm from New York, but I've never camped out in New York. I've gone to the Poconos, but that was in the summertime. So for all intents and purposes, I've never winter camped, right? And 24 degrees for us, I was raised mostly down south. That's cold for us, and we're just moving back up into North Georgia from Florida. We've been in Florida for 6 years, so our blood has to adjust to being in cold weather, period. I know I had posted up on my Instagram, with the temperature, and it was cold. Like my nose was pink, and the guy was like, yeah, that's cute. It's like negative something degrees, and I'm like waist deep in snow, and I'm like, and on that note, I'll just tuck my head up underneath my covers. I understand that there are going to be other preppers and bushcrafters out there that are in far more extreme cold weather than me. But for us, anything under 30 degrees, hell, anything under 50 degrees for us is cold. And when you talk about something under 30 degrees, to me, that's extreme cold weather for us. So it definitely took a toll, like sleeping on that air mattress. We had blankets, we had sheets on that mattress, and still the cold was just coming through. Even with our chubby heater, it warmed the tent, but every time that gust of wind came in, it was brutal. It was brutal. But I didn't want to give up, because honestly, if we're ever in a shit hit the fan scenario, there is no going back home, right? So you either suck it up and deal with it and learn how to, deal with it, and we all huddle together and use this body heat, or, we're not going to be able to survive out here. And I'm not trying to be down in those southern snake states with, poisonous snakes and alligators and everything else. Like, I would fare my chances in the mountains, but if I had to go down into like the swamps, then I guess I'm just gonna have to do what I have to do, for me and my family to survive. But we made it through that night. The second night, the air mattress just didn't want to hold any air, and this was our second time using this air mattress. So I'm like, I know we couldn't have punctured a hole in this thing already. The air mattress would not hold air, right? We kept having to get up and re-inflate it. So I was like, that was mistake number 2, that damn air mattress. Okay, so please leave a comment. What is better? Would you rather, for the bushcrafters that are already out there, do you have a cot? Do you have a sleeping bag? Because I was more or less about to, I'm about to get a cot. I need something to be off the ground, right? So I was gonna get me and the kids cots, and we're ditching the sleeping bag. Another mistake we made, I had lighters, but I had the wrong kind of lighters. I should have brought, and something told me to bring my long nose lighter, and I forgot to pack it. And one of the things, being in Georgia, the fellow bushcrafters that are out there, they're not that sociable. So, I have to get out of my Tennessee frame of mind and know that every experience isn't gonna be like that. So we had to just find alternative ways to light our chubby with the regular Bic lighters. Those are not good lighters to bring out there. So I would, if I were you, and you're gonna go out there, I would buy a couple of the long nose lighters and pack them with you, or the long matchsticks, what I should have gotten too. By the time Sunday morning got there, we were worn down. I will admit that I was not hydrating myself like I should have. My kids were hydrating, but not me, because I didn't want to keep running back and forth to the bathroom, especially in the middle of the night. And if you're going to be out in cold weather, just know that your body, it burns more calories in the cold than it does in like warm weather. So if you're not putting in enough calories in your body is going to be burning more calories than you're putting in. You're going to start to feel exhausted. Like when I got up this morning, like all of this here was stiff, like my head was hurting. I felt like I was gonna get sick. But once I got home and I was able to eat and drink, and I had to take a muscle relaxer to kind of like ease up the tenseness the stiffness that I was feeling in my body. But I knew that was another mistake that I had made, is not eating, not hydrating the way that I should have. And I set a very bad example for my kids in that. So don't, make sure if you're out and you're new to this, stay hydrated and eat, because your body needs calories. Your body burns more calories. Your body is in overdrive to help keep your core at, to maintain the heat in its core, right? And it wasn't good for us that we were sleeping on an air mattress that was absorbing coldness. So it was like sleeping on a cold ground. We might as well have been sleeping on the gravel with just a blanket. That's what it felt like. But it was a good experience. My kids ended up having a really good time. We had the solar power charger for the phones. I didn't charge my phone, so I was without a phone really, and I didn't have reception for whatever reason. Me and my kid, this is gonna be a Apple versus Android thing, right? So we're both on T-Mobile, and anytime we go into these forests or mountains, I never have service. But my son, who has an Android, he will always have about 2 to 3 more bars than me. So he'll, the joke, he'll be like, well, Mom, how many bars do you have? And I'll be like, I only have 2. And he'll be like, I have 4. So my son, he had more reception than I did. So him and my daughter were able to watch Netflix, and they still had power on their cell phone because they used the solar power charger, right, to keep their phones charged up. Other than that, this was a pretty primitive experience for them. And by the time we broke down our tent Sunday morning, it was 27 degrees. I was like, listen, we were a mile and a half away from Anna Ruby. Like, we were right around the corner. Like, if you go camping and you want to camp at Anna Ruby Falls, this would have been the spot where you camp at. But I had no energy. Like, I felt like I had just run a marathon, or that I'd been hit by a bus. So I said, listen, you guys are gonna be on spring break. We'll make it out next weekend, because I do want to see Anna Ruby waterfalls. And then my person also was like, go see Ruby Falls, which is up in Lookout Mountain in Tennessee. So I want to do both of those within the next coming weeks. But so that was my experience. I didn't make it to my first bug out location. Just was like, hey, let's go here. That became our second bug out location. Had some struggle fires, couldn't really keep it burning. It was cold. The air mattress kept deflating. So I know that I'm probably gonna get a cot, and hopefully the weather will start getting warm, so I won't have to worry about us camping in cold weather. But speaking of camping in cold weather, I do have a joint collaboration event with Soul Journey of Life. I will be dropping the link underneath the video for you guys to click on it. It is called Conscious Camping. It's from April 8th to April 10th, God willing. Everything goes to plan. Davison River in Pisgah National Forest in North Carolina. What this event is about is, I really hate to make this about race, but to be blatantly honest, anytime I'm out bugging out or camping or hiking for that matter, I don't see a lot of people that look like me. My fear is that if we ever get into a scenario where it is a shit hits the fan scenario, a lot of people are going to be too comfortable to leave their houses. And when there's civil unrest, you're not going to have a choice. Like, I'm looking at what's happening in Canada right now, where Trudeau has pretty much declared martial law, and that's not too far from us. I think about a week and a half to 2 weeks ago, Detroit truckers had parked their trucks and was pulling to Canada. So they already, excuse me for my nose itch, my allergies since I've come out those mountains. It's with everything that's happened in Canada, it's not to say that something like that cannot happen here. That's a little bit too close to home. There are other preppers. I know that I follow Canadian prepper, and he was posting about how their Salvation Army, the Red Cross, the Red Cross up there where he was demanding that, he send all of his MREs that he had stockpiled. And people, like, listen, I've been posting on my Instagram, if we ever get into a situation, and all All it takes for the government to declare martial law is for our infrastructure to go down. With everything that's happening with Russia and Ukraine right now, and Russia threatening cyber attacks, if our infrastructure, if our telecommunication infrastructure went down for 48 hours, that is enough for the president to declare a martial law. Martial law, if any preppers have anything, that's why it's very important that you never get on these platforms and talk about what you have, because they're watching and they're looking for that stuff, and if they ever declare martial law, they're legally able to come into you and say, send us everything you have. And then everything you work so hard to stockpile, or not stockpile, but everything you work so hard to prep and save for your family, you know, to have a 90-day food supply for everyone in your house, it can be taken away from you at any moment. These are some of the things that we want to talk about at Conscience Camping. I want to see more people of color out there when I go out there. And right now, I don't. I do appreciate the preppers and the bushcrafters that are out there now that I can learn from. I greatly appreciate you guys. For real. There's a lot of people that I follow that I'm just like, wow, this person is, you know, amazing. I want to be able to go bug out in 10-degree weather. Maybe not with my kids, but, you know, I'm inspired from you guys. I learn from you guys, but at the same time, I want to see more people that look like me out there. So if you're interested in coming out, I am not an expert. I learned from other people that have been doing this long before me, but I am a person that since I was younger than my kids' age, I've always been outdoors, you know, exploring in the woods with my friends and just doing dumb stuff like making mud pies and, you know, walking across pipes, across water, you know, creeks and stuff. Like, I want my kids to have that outdoor experience like I had, so that they're not afraid out there, you know. Come out and connect with me and Soul Journey. Once again, April 8th to April 10th, Pisgah National Forest, Conscious Camping. I will drop the link beneath the video. But other than that, I will leave it to you guys, all the experienced bushcrafters out there. If you have any advice as far as bugging out in cold weather, please leave me something in the comments. But take care, you guys. Stay warm and pay attention to what's going on in the news, because even though it's happening in other countries, it does affect us in some way, shape, or form. And in the meantime, just keep getting prepared. Like, this food shortage is real. Stock water, foods that you eat, like canned foods and noodles. Like, you need to at least have a 90-day food supply for you and every person in your house. Keep prepping, because it's not always going to be this way. And the way it's looking now, I hate to be the conspiracy theorist, but I'm concerned. And that's just why I'm out, you know, with my kids and getting them the conditioning. In the event that does happen and we have to leave our home, you know, we have a place to go and we'll be safe. You know, me and my kids can survive to our next location. So stay safe and pay attention to the news, guys, and keep prepping. Take care.